If they continue, because I mean, we've heard people also argue that, yes, there are checks and balances, different arms of government. If you make a resolution and you want it to become law, that goes against the intendment of that particular clause because it's well spelled out. You'll be crossing into an area which you're not supposed to.
Yes, I think I flow with your thinking, but your thinking should also agree to the fact that those resolutions, even while they are not laws, the contents of those resolutions can still be put into bills and passed through the legislative process of lawmaking. Yeah. And remember that even when they've taken it to the president and the president refuses to assent thereto, that it can still come back to them and on them or by themselves, they still pass it into law.
You seem to be saying that, all resolutions must be respected. All.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that for the purpose of good governance, it is imperative that we give respect to the resolutions of the National Assembly because as it is presently.
You agree that the executive can pick and choose which resolutions to respect? And
yes, but they have to do it with respect. Whatever has to do with executive powers, it is not for the legislature to carry it out. However, when the legislature comes up and gives an opinion as to what the executive should do in certain circumstances, it only behoves on the executive to give respect, adequate respect to the resolutions of that.
What constitutes respect in this case?
What constitutes respect is reciprocal. What you think you deserve, do unto others what you would want others to do unto you.
Specifically,
oh, this is emanating from the representatives of the people. It is well thought out. These people are not fools. They are not moles. It is important that we realize that they actually took their time to bring out this resolution.
There's an interesting perspective to that because does it mean that every resolution, because the implication of this,
yes,
if they want one resolution to be obeyed, yes, respected, quote and unquote,
yes,
and then it's the same thing that will follow, there will be that, an attendant effect to all the others.
There's nothing wrong with that. If the National Assembly comes up to be making resolutions every now and then, it must have passed through debate, and they are the representatives of the people. There's a dividing line there. The dividing line is that the executive is not bound to carry out the resolutions, but the executive is duty bound to respect the contents of the resolution and not to throw it back at the legislature. The
Case in
National
point,
Assembly, yes.
Senate,
yes,
recommends, they come up with this resolution about the BPE.
Yes.
They indicted the DG of the BPE, indicted Malam Nasir El-Rufai.
Yes.
National House of Reps comes up saying sack the DG of SCC, Aruma Ote,
yes,
and some others.
Yes.
Respect in those cases will be what? Carry out those resolutions?
I think respect should fall short of carrying them out. It should go to the extent of dialogue, coming to discuss with the executive and with the legislature, and both parties coming to agreement, coming to a compromise, agreeing that these are the best ways forward. Without that, by staying compartmentalized, by staying on your own and thinking that your own decisions are right, you are merely causing disaffection in the polity. And so those points that the National Assembly raised, the Senate specifically raised in terms of the BP, in terms of Aruma Ote, ought to be seriously taken into consideration by the executive without saying here that they are bound to carry those recommendations out. But they are duty bound to take serious thought to those recommendations.
The way we try to interpret the law or the Constitution, are we allowed to infer? Or is it?
Of course, in the laws of in the rules of statutory interpretation or interpretation of words as lawyers, you are allowed to imply where there are no express provisions as to certain circumstances. You may draw from the wordings used or the circumstances surrounding the situation, the conditions, and you can infer therefrom, or you imply. So inferences are allowed in the interpretation of laws.
All of this, Sir Marco, in all of this now, if we try to look at some of the resolutions specifically, because Chamberlain started by mentioning some of them, let's look at some that have happened quite recently and see which and which we would want them, that is the executive arm, to really, because Chamberlain asked, is it binding on all resolutions? And you said no. So lately they have come up with series of resolutions. So which one of them do you want us to say, okay, the executive is supposed to have listened to the National Assembly on this particular matter?
Well, I want to start by commending, the president who listened, so to speak, to the to the voice of the people, vox populi as it were, in putting on hold the printing of the 5,000 naira notes and the coinage of 5 naira, 10 naira, and 20 naira. I think without being an economist, practical observation would tell you that once notes have been printed into coins in the Nigerian conditions, they disappear from the economy. You don't need to be an economist. It is even more buttressed by the fact that even economists, renowned economists, top economists, have come up to criticize that policy, and the Senate or the National Assembly having made the recommendations to the resolutions to the executive, to the president, to discard that policy. It is good that the president took it to that resolution, to that advice, and discarded it. I think that example should be used to praise the president in that regard. However, there are also other examples. I may not specifically want to state my clear opinions in terms of saying that this person should be sacked, but this person should not be sacked. Okay. But in terms of the BPE and the SEC, Aroma Ote, I think in all honesty that there is need for the executive to understand the perspective of the National Assembly. And if need be, one or two people should step aside and let, in fact, the membership of the staff of SEC had come up clearly, even on air, to say that they don't want Aroma Hotel. These are people on ground.
Going back in time, the doctrine of necessity, can we say that was a resolution?
Okay, now you have brought out a very important point. You cannot, in one first swoop, you accept something, and in another point in time, you reject it. The presidency himself enjoyed from the principle of necessity, from the doctrine of necessity, when it became necessary for him to ascend the seat of presidency when there was a vacuum. He accepted the benefit, but presently he is not accepting some of those interventions by the same National Assembly.
No,
now,
we can't say he's not accepting it, because now you just told us again how he has put on hold the 5,000 naira issue. Yes. And again, Chimelin asked a question to say if Labaran Maku, the Minister for Information, could be said to have spoken on behalf of the executive. Yes. Don't you think that we have some who speak for themselves and some other time they speak for the executive? Because if he has said all of that, and if that's the thinking of the executive, then I don't think that he should have put any hold on the 5,000 naira note.
He didn't say that the resolutions will not be carried out. All he said was that the resolutions of the National Assembly are merely advisory. It is just merely stating the obvious, telling you that your son is your son. You don't need to tell me that my son is my son. You are just trying to make me a fool. So in terms of the decisions of the government, of the federal government, in carrying out some of the resolutions of the National Assembly, with particular reference to the pronouncements of Labaran Maku. Whatever Labaran Maku says in public or in private, so long as you can quote him, it is deemed, except he proves to the contrary, to be the voice of the government.